I want to bring this subject up because why do I feel it's important to talk about? Because I only heard basically one other person talk about this. I haven't heard anyone else talk about this. There's not a lot of information on it on Google, and I think it's important to put this information out there. And like what we talked about is our function, some of us who are working in exploring fields of consciousness, transpersonal psychology and such, is that part of our function is as map makers is to find these maps within the terrains of consciousness of the culture and the times that we're traversing now, make new ones, and basically be able to navigate this sort of territory. And in transpersonal psychology, we become aware of maps of consciousness that are beyond what is conventionally described in behavioral psychology and materialist science. And so there are other sources of information regarding these other transpersonal realms of consciousness. Other traditions, other countries, other times, which sort of did kind of attempt to map them out, and they did map them out in the language and the culture of their times. And Carl Jung was one of the people who mapped out these terrains of consciousness in figures of what he named the archetypes. So Jung basically divided consciousness into several aspects which are purely arbitrary. They're just for descriptive purposes. But you had divisions such as the shadow self, the ego, the anima, the animus. And those were some of the basic ones that he worked with. He also worked with dreams. And working with these sort of instinctual, archetypal, universal human energies which circulated throughout our physical biology and also throughout the planet. So it was kind of this intertwined expression which expressed itself through mythology, through the stories, the Aboriginal stories, the folklore, the myths, the legends, the fairy tales of the world. These repeating patterns and religions, also associating with the movement of the stars and the earth and the moon and the sun, etc., observance of natural movements and forces, all of that. You just let it come up, you give it time, and trust your brain, it'll bring it back. So I was talking about Carl Jung and the archetypes. Well, there's also other archetypal realms that are described in Aboriginal cultures, which Carl Jung did not actually describe, because Carl Jung was very focused on a specific field of psychology. He had a very specific method, and he had some strong points, but also the points that he didn't necessarily explore or develop, simply because in one lifetime you just can't do it all. I mean, but he did a lot. He did a lot. I mean, really a lot. He revolutionized psychology in a way that is absolutely indescribable, and I personally owe him a great deal for having helped me in my personal path, and very useful. But so there are these other trains of consciousness. It looks like we're going to do part 2 in this one part. So I guess I'll keep it shorter. And this, by the way, what I'm going to talk about, only other person I've heard talk about this is Tom Kenyon, who's a sound healer. He does shamanic work. You can check out his stuff at tomkenyon.com. So he explored something called the Ghandarvas, which was a realm of consciousness that the Vedas, the Hindu Vedas, identified and called the Gandharvic realm, which is basically a place that exists in the electromagnetic spectrum that's invisible to us. What we can taste, touch, smell, hear, and see is less than 1% of reality. It's less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So these Gandharvas, according to the Vedas, exist in the electromagnetic spectrum that's invisible to the eye, but that exists in the vibratory realm of music. So, and these Gandharvas basically have the sole purpose of singing and sort of making music, chanting to the divine, to the gods and goddesses, basically entertaining them. So they exist at a very highly refined vibratory dimension in which the sole purpose is to basically bliss out and make music and have fun and dance and celebrate existence in a certain way. From our perspective, perhaps from their perspective they would add to it, but they're not here to tell us about it, as far as I know. So they're musicians, they're the divine musicians, and what they respond to apparently is a certain vibratory frequency which when translated on the human realm corresponds to the emotion of gratitude, love, and compassion, which is a heartfelt emotion, and also corresponds to a specific ratio which was mapped out by people like the Heart Math Institute and other, heart researchers, energetic researchers, that the ratio of love and compassion and gratitude is 1.618, which is the phi ratio, which is the golden mean ratio. And that ratio is a ratio of pressure, physical pressure, and it is the most coherent ratio that's expressible through organic matter. So life found a way to express itself, and this most coherent expression is expressed through this golden mean ratio. And it's been used throughout art, by Leonardo da Vinci, by the Greeks, throughout all of history. It was identified, this is the organic pattern that forms all life. It's the typical nautilus shell. And that frequency corresponds to the vibratory, emotional, human feeling of love, gratitude, and compassion, which is what we feel when we feel that emotion. We generate that electromagnetic wave. And when we actually generate that tone, that we tune into that frequency, that emotion within us that we have, it creates a coherent state, which is coherent as opposed to incoherent. So coherent means it structures itself well. That means DNA repair, for example, cell repair. Means regeneration. That means holistic construction. That means good health. That means fulfillment. That means integration. It means all the good stuff, basically, when you are resonating at this 1.618 phi ratio. And what these Gandharvas are supposed to be attracted to is this vibratory frequency of genuine love and compassion. Not the thought idea of it, but the actual genuine feeling. So during the Gandharvic ceremony, we're asked to recall that feeling, and it can be any memory, basically. To recall that actual state is valid. So it could be a memory of anything. It could be, your grandmother, a friend, whatever, someone you know, a dog, a scene, or just whatever evokes that awe and gratitude within you. You can use. It could be for those who were unfortunate enough to have lives where they never experienced. You can use fantasy. You can go into imagination, create a scene to recall that state. It's totally fine. You have permission to do that. And so basically, during the ceremony, the basic idea is that that feeling of love and gratitude and compassion is called, and the names of these deities are called in the forms of basically, what do you call them? Avatars, right? Past and present, though mostly past because a lot of them are gone. Just typical ones you can think about. Dalai Lama, Moses, Talopa, Naropa. The archangels, you name them, they're all good. There's so many of them. I mean, there's hundreds, and there's not time to name all of them, but you name the ones that are important to you. So you call them in, they'll resonate at that frequency, and you tune into the feeling of love, empathy, appreciation, and gratitude, and that is the vibration that they feel, and that is what is amplified during the ceremony. And this creates a very harmonic state of energetic flux, which really just is good for the environment, basically anything that's in the environment, and for yourself. Obviously, when you send love and gratitude to anybody, you're doing them the best thing you can do to them, just unconditional love without any prerequisites. And this creates a very healing effect, and this is what these Gandharvic spirits or entities or muses are attracted to, is this. It's like nectar to them. It's it's very positive, very healing, and very just good, life affirming energy, which is what they're attracted to you to. And usually, what they're used to is, for example, people at church, is people asking them for things. Oh God, please, I want this, and I'm not happy, and I wish my life would change, and what a piece, and ungrateful. This is the worst attitude ever, is just being ungrateful, just hating everything. And so you never even recognize when anything good in your life happens. You're just so fucking ungrateful, you can't recognize when there's a miracle right in front of your goddamn eyes. So in that state, that's what they're used to. So people who go to church are like, God, please fix my life for me. The Gandharva spirits are like, that's ego. I'm not interested. They're not interested in that. They're interested in life. They love, when kids for example, kids just run around and celebrate life, just joy, just pure joy. musicians just jamming, just exploring music and expressing their fucking souls and pouring their hearts out. That feeling of aliveness, the spirit of a great concert or music show or whatever. That is coming when that's genuine and it's coming through. The Ghandarvas just are there. They're singing along with you. That's the whole point of the Ghandarva. So it's not only a celebratory, sort of fun thing. It's also a kind of energetic or cultivational aspect to it from our point of view. From their